Today's driving thoughts is about trusting your gut feeling and avoiding sunk cost bias. And I've always known that my gut feeling never lies to me, but there's been numerous occasions where I ignore it and I keep plodding along in my operation or in my goals. And I have a situation right now where I am suffering from sunk cost bias. And I'm going to explain what these are, and I'm going to give you some examples. But, I have a goal sheet right now that I put on my bathroom mirror, and I have 4 big goals on there, and I read them out loud every time I go in my bathroom. I've decided to start reading these things out loud instead of just thinking about them in my mind. And one of these goals is a business expansion goal. Whenever I read that goal, I read it with reservation and anxiety, because I know it's not really what I want to do, but I almost feel like I'm doing it because I have to do it, because I've got so much time and money invested in this particular platform that I need to expand it. But it's not really what I want to do. And the reason why I have taken that goal off my plate is because of another experience I'll share with you. And that experience occurred recently, and it made me realize I need to trust my gut feeling at all time. It's never wrong. It has never been wrong, and it's become more and more strong and accurate as I've been through more things. I've had more successes. I've had more failures. I've had more businesses. I've dealt with more people. I keep building my net worth, and I've just realized my gut feeling on what direction I should go, what I should keep, what I should not keep, what I should buy, what I should not buy, what I should pay for something, not pay for it, who I should work with and not work with. It's just never wrong, and I'm not saying I'm some kind of a guru or a psychic, but my gut feeling and the red flags that go up and all that stuff, it's never wrong. And I want to encourage you to follow your gut feeling. If something you're working on, and it could be, it could be an education goal, it could be a relationship you're in, it could be running a business or starting a business or making an investment. If you got a bad feeling about it and you aren't loving it, you don't really want to do it, then you need to stop doing it, because you won't be happy, and in the end you're going to get out of it anyway. So you got to start trusting your gut and stop pursuing stuff you don't want to do. So what happened was, I was trying to buy a property and the seller wanted a certain price for it, and I knew it was overpriced, and we were about $100,000 apart. Well, we met in the middle, so I put it under agreement for $60,000 more than I wanted to pay, so a little bit more than the middle. But even then, I knew it wasn't right, and I had a 2-week due diligence period, but during those 2 weeks, I just couldn't sleep. It was keeping me up at night. Whenever I would wake up and think about the property, I couldn't fall back asleep, and I just knew I was paying too much for the property. It wasn't that I didn't want the property, but I knew if I tried to sell it, I wouldn't be able to sell it for what I was buying it for. So long story short, at the end of my due diligence period, I negotiated it back down to the price I was willing to pay. The seller finally gave in and realized it wasn't worth more than I was offering. And now when I when I go to bed and I'm excited, I can't wait for that deal to close. So I trusted my gut feeling. I didn't bend. I was willing to let the deal go if he didn't come to my price, and he did. And now I'm happy about buying that. So when that happened, I just realized when I was reading my goal sheet and I had all this reservations about this one goal, I just realized it wasn't a good goal. And I decided not to pursue it. And now that's lifted some stress off of my chest. So you got to trust your instincts. And I'll give you I want to talk about sunk cost bias. Sunk cost bias is a theory or a concept where people keep pursuing something for the wrong reasons. Okay, maybe they got too much money invested in something and they don't want to stop investing it or give up that investment. So they keep hanging on to it, and they keep losing money, or they keep losing time, or they keep losing, emotional happiness. You could be in a relationship that is never going to end well, but you don't want to get out of it because you've been in it for 2 or 3 or 10 years, and so you're miserable. You keep not getting the things out of life you want from your relationships. That's sunk cost bias, and everybody suffers from it. And I hope you're aware of it. I hope you assess the things that are going on in your life or your own goals, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop pursuing this. I had a friend who was a barista, and I went over his house one time because he actually wound up being a tenant in an apartment I was showing, and he had a law degree on the wall from Wake Forest University. Couldn't believe it. I looked at it and I said, did you go to Wake Forest Law School? He said, yeah. And I said, well, why are you serving coffee? And he said, well, I never wanted to go to law school. My parents wanted me to go. And so I went and I graduated, but they're mad at me now because I never wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm thinking, man, that's sunk cost bias. You went through all of this. Your parents spent all that money, and now you're a barista, and you could have done so much more with that time and money. Not that it's a bad thing to be a barista, but, the point is, he should have spoke up and told his parents he was unhappy. I'll give you another example about this sunk cost bias. I know so many people. I talk to them all the time. They can't stand their job, okay, but they don't want to make the effort to get out of it. I had 25 years invested in the corporate world. I had great IT and engineering experience. I had a great resume. I was making good money, and I got my real estate license part-time, and I kept my corporate job. Well, about 12 months after I had my real estate license, I realized I wanted to do it full-time, and I knew I would be successful. And it was a big decision to walk away from 25 years and my resume and my income and just walk away from that skill set that made me so employable. But I'll tell you something, the day I did it, it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because it was very stressful being in that corporate world. I just couldn't stand it. I would dread, Monday morning, and I couldn't wait for Friday afternoon. But I got in control of my time, I got in control of my income, and I got in control of my sanity, and I got in control of my ability to build my net worth when I left that job. It was the best decision ever made. And I will tell you, most of the time, I've talked people into cutting their losses and stop suffering from sunk cost bias. Every single person has thanked me for it. They wind up being happier. I used to work in the IT department with a girl who was going through a long-term divorce. And she was so unhappy, but they wouldn't finalize the divorce because they were fighting over $10,000. And finally, one day I said to the girl, why don't you give the husband the $10,000? I said, you can get this divorce over with. You'll be so much happier. You'll stop having stomach problems. You'll stop, you'll stop sleeping poorly. Sure enough, a couple months later, she came into work. She said, yeah, I gave him the $10,000. And you know what? I am so happy. We're finally divorced. She said, you were so right. And there's 3 reasons people don't trust their gut feeling and they won't cut their losses. The first reason is sunk cost bias, right? I talked about that already. Second reason is they're afraid of what other people are going to think and say. Like, people stay in relationships because they're afraid of hurting the other person, or they're afraid their family or their friends, they're going to lose friends, or people are going to criticize them. And sooner or later, they wind up terminating those relationships. And when they do, they're like 10 times happier. Or changing jobs, exiting a business partnership, selling an investment that isn't making any money, but you spent a lot of time fixing it up. But again, they're so afraid of what people are going to think, or that they're going to get attacked or criticized, or they're going to lose friends. I can tell you that's not a good reason to not trust your gut feeling and get something out of your life that you're not happy about. The third reason is the fear of the unknown. A lot of people won't exit relationships because they're like, well, I don't know if I'll find somebody again like this. Who's going to love me? Where will I go? What will I do? Or same thing with career choices. Well, if I stop being this for a job, what will I do? What will I do for money? Don't get me wrong. You need a plan, okay? I'm not going to say you just quit your job tomorrow and you got no money and you can't pay your bills, but start working on a plan. Get a mentor. Get in a mastermind group, right? Start going on YouTube and looking at all the different things you can do for a living today. It's insane. You don't need to have a job anymore to make a good living, okay? So formulate a plan, but sooner or later, cut that cord and stop being, trust your gut and get out of it. Stop doing what you're doing. So fear of unknown, sunk cost bias, or fear of what other people are going to think or how they're going to react are reasons why people stay in situations they shouldn't be in. So do me a favor. Write down all the things you're doing right now, who you're with, what you do for a living, what you do with your free time, how you're building wealth, what your goals are, and read them off. And ask yourself, how do you feel when you're reading off each one of these things? And if the feeling isn't good, then you need to start formulating a plan to stop doing that, okay? But read them off out loud and trust your gut feeling. That's the only way you'll ever be happy, have personal and financial freedom, build wealth, and enjoy your life, okay? Trust your gut feeling. Figure out what your gut feeling is on every aspect of your life and trust your gut feeling.